Well, good evening. I am delighted to be back at the Fletcher School. You know, I actually applied as a student some 30 years ago, and I didn't get in. They put me on the wait list, but they didn't explain it was 30 years long. So it's been a long time coming. I want to thank Eileen Babbitt, who graciously invited, and I want to thank my coach, Mahir Mahad. This format is new to me in the TED Talk format, but what a great idea. And so I hope I prove worthy, particularly, you know, the buildup of a star-studded appointment. Your dean, he has 4 stars. So it's very, but the epitome of the scholar, statesman, and soldier, and someone I have a lot of great respect for. You guys are very, very lucky to have him as the dean of your school here. And I thought he said a lot about our topic tonight. I want to start out telling you a little bit about USAID and the Center of Excellence, and then talk about our centerpiece topic tonight. So first of all, USAID, for those of you, I don't know if I need to go into this with this audience in particular, but it is the primary development agency of the US government, about 90 missions around the world, where we deliver foreign assistance in the form of education, health, agriculture, democracy, governance, energy, and the like. For me, as Mahir said, I run the Center of Excellence for Democracy, Human Rights, and Governance. Some public administration, support for elections, governance, rule of law, civil society, and the promotion and protection of human rights, so that everybody has a share in the political and economic, social life of the countries in which we are resident. That's why I was so excited about the topic of bridging the academic to policy gap. It's something I work in every day. And so to kind of convey that excitement, I think it's always helpful to use a Star Trek reference. This, of course, is the Nexus. It comes from Star Trek Generations. It was the one movie that paired William T. Kirk and Jean-Luc Picard teaming up to confront a villain who was trying to bring everyone back to the Nexus. In my parlance, the Nexus is really that space that brings together in the DRG Center, Democracy, Human Rights, and Governance Center of Excellence, the worlds of policy, academia, and development practice. We have an affirmative mandate to bring these worlds together, to improve development outcomes and to inform US development and national security policy. I think that Dean Stavridis said it right. Why do these worlds why are they not closer? And just to demonstrate kind of the size of the gap in thinking about this, I had 3 examples that immediately came to my mind to think about how big is the gap we're talking about. The first is from my home state of Maryland. That's the Cumberland Gap. The second is the Grand Canyon, and the third is the Panama Canal. And Dean Stavridis talked about the specialization that occurs in the academia, the pace that is set by policy that moves very, very fast and explain. I would add a third area, and that's the area of language. We sometimes talk in different languages, and part of the work that we're doing to fill the gap is to get together so we have a common vocabulary and a common way of talking about that problem. Why is it important that we address this gap? We think that it's key that we build an evidence base for the work we do in democracy promotion. We need to know the connection between assistance and policy that results in change in developing societies. Furthermore, policy sort of demands that we know what we're talking about. They want to know what combination of assistance works under different circumstances and why that is. So what the central point that I'll make tonight is that this isn't just a good thing to do, it's a requirement now of our discipline. So how are we filling that gap? The first thing we needed to do as a development agency was to research what were the principal questions that folks in the field were confronting every day. We asked them to give us examples of research hypotheses that they were interested in getting the answer to. And we group them according to these 4 areas: participation and inclusion, transparency and accountability, human rights, and what we call DRG integration. That's a fancy way of saying there are certain principles in the practice of democracy, human rights, and governance, like participation, like inclusion, like transparency and accountability. And we need to apply them across the development spectrum to our health programs, to our education programs, to agriculture and energy, because we think, our hypothesis is that we get better development outcomes by bringing the people to the table in a very inclusive way. So we grouped 12 questions along these areas. And let me just give you a few examples of the kind of questions we're asking. What factors influence youth to become involved in positive, constructive political participation versus violence or apathy? Or what ways are human rights awareness campaigns successful, and what risks do they pose for those who participate in them? What are the unintended consequences? So that is our, with these 12 questions, we're moving forward, and this is where the partnership with academia comes in place. In these topics, against these questions, if there is an existing literature that it's well documented, we're asking grad students like you from places like Stanford, the University of Denver, and other academic institutions. I met somebody this afternoon who's actually working on one of our lit reviews now. Where are you, Anna? She's in class, that's right, she's in class. She couldn't get a note to be here. She's actually working on the research for one of these literature reviews. So we do the literature reviews and they come back to us and say, this is what social science has to say about a particular question. If there is not an extant literature against the question, we will commission experts to help us. We'll design a research project, put that out to receive proposals, and there's some people in the room that are casting about for those opportunities. They'll remain nameless so I don't violate any procurement-sensitive rules and regulations of the US government. The third area, and what I want to talk about, which is a new way of doing business, is what we call the Impact Evaluation Learning Clinic. And this is how I think we are bringing the latest in social science research methodology to assist us in solving the problems. Impact evaluation is sort of considered the gold standard. It really does separate the phenomenon and says, with the application of foreign assistance, this is what we can attribute, the outcome we can attribute to your intervention. And so what we have been doing is we partner academics who are skilled in these kind of evaluation techniques with actual design teams. We ask our field missions, are you designing a program? Would you be interested in building in to the design an impact evaluation or a suitable methodology for the program that you're running? They come to a training. They are assigned an academic who will be with them from the beginning of the design project through the end. And in the morning of the clinics, they get the research and literature reviews. They get taught or trained. Our people get trained by the academics in research methodology. And then every afternoon, their project goes up on the blocks, like in a mechanic shop, and they tinker and they pull and they assess and they build in to that project what an evaluation would look like. By the end of the week, they have a proposal to give to their leadership on how that project will go. Why is this important? It actually trains our staff in rigorous social science discipline of how do you evaluate development projects. Why is it good for academics? They get ground floor access to an actual development project, original research that is often of publishable quality, or that's what we hope. That's the hope we hold out for that. So that's the 3 ways we do. Why is this important? Why do we care? As I said, we want to know what works and what doesn't under circumstances, but also policymakers want to know. But the only way we're going to fill that gap is that if we continue to build on a long-term and permanent basis a strong partnership with academia, as the dean suggests. And I would just leave you with the thought that that's just not a nice thing to do. It's not a way of building our stakeholders in academia. It is now a requirement of the discipline in which we are all engaged. It also makes it able for us to capture the resources that we need to help champions for democracy, human rights, governance around the world, whether it's in Sri Lanka or Burma or Guatemala, Kenya or Nigeria. These programs with that evidence base can help us promote those kind of values in places around the world. Thank you very much.